Hey there, Dr. Julie Hartman here with the mindfulresourcecenter.com and consciousallyparenting.com. And I wanted to answer a question today that came up in a couple different areas and from a couple different sources. And I thought, this is one that I really want to hop on live and offer some suggestions about, because it is truly so important. And the topic is, what are some of the initial steps to take if you suspect that anxiety might be hurting your child or teen? And so this tutorial is for parents, but it's also for educators. If you have a student in your class or in your even in your neighborhood that you suspect might have anxiety, that how you can be a positive resource to them. Or for therapists, if you know that one of the maybe adults that you see in your practice is talking about their kids, and you kind of get a sense that their child or their teen might have anxiety, and so you want to be a positive influence on that. Or you see kids and teens, and you might have plenty of experience in supporting anxiety in children and teens, but I'd like to offer kind of my take. I've been in practice for over 20 years, specializing in all things child development, and I use a cognitive behavioral therapy rich set of skills and tools that I teach kids and teens and parents. And I use an attachment-based, mindfulness-oriented, and developmentally a sort of a supportive approach, because with kids and teens in particular, they are not necessarily as interested in the worksheets and in some of the more dry aspects of cognitive behavioral therapy. And so I took my specialty in child development, and I have basically funneled down all of the essential ingredients of cognitive behavioral therapy and applied lots of different methods for making it child and youth friendly so that they can get the benefits. So I really hope this is useful to you, and I'll break it down into 3 essential steps, okay? And meanwhile, when you hop on, I would love for you to say hey, let me know where you're from, give me a wave. I'd love to be able to interact with you and support you directly. It's one of the reasons I actually love doing these live tutorials, because then I get to interact with you directly, from my office here, and it's always fun to kind of know where people are from. So I get to benefit from this whole digital world thing. It's amazing how we get to influence each other positively from all different areas of the globe. Okay, so the number one thing people first have to do if they suspect that anxiety is on the scene with their child or teen, and it might be disrupting their learning and development, or it might be disrupting their quality of life, the very number one first thing to do is take it seriously. Okay, so that doesn't mean doom and gloom, all right? But what so often happens is we are very oriented in our society to downplay anxiety, right? Oh, it's just stress. Or, oh, once they get used to this new situation, they'll be fine. Oh, when they did that camp one time, remember how panicky and how anxious and how clingy they became, and then by the end of the first day they loved it. So we really don't need to do anything about this. That's what we can expect every time, right? Or if you have a student who gets really resistant or really avoidant around certain amount of, certain kinds of work or something like that, it might be like, oh, I don't necessarily need to do anything about it. I'm probably going to assume that the parents are on top of it or something like that. And I know educators have unique situations depending on kind of what the rules and regs are at their school as far as what kind of involvement they can have specifically around these kind of issues. But what my point is, the number one thing to do is to take it seriously. Anxiety is a healthy, normal emotion. We want it. It's actually one of my very favorite emotions because it helps give us energy. It helps alert us to important things that matter to us, right? So if you have that kind of anxiety before a big game, or that anxiety before, a job interview, or like the first day of school, that can be really, really healthy, because it's basically It's basically organizing all of your energy toward helping that turn out to be something that's prioritized and that potentially gets the best of you so that it can work out well. All right. But because anxiety as the emotion shares circuitry with the fear part of our brain, people who are prone to problematic anxiety, that fear section of the brain will go, there's activity over there. There's activity in this anxiety circuitry. I want to make sure there isn't anything dangerous on the scene, and will potentially then get that part of the brain gets oxygenated, and then the person is more prone to more debilitating anxiety and related symptoms that can stifle their learning and their development. All right, so it's super important to take the emotion that is anxiety seriously, and don't just assume that it's going to go away, and don't just assume that it's automatically something natural or something typical, because you kind of want to be on top of it if it turns out that it is something that is going to need more attention. You want to give that attention and get that support as soon as possible so that the person can learn the skills for managing it, so that it's not something that goes rogue and stifles their opportunities. Okay, so number one, take it seriously. Number two, super important to know that you're not alone. If you suspect that anxiety is on the scene with your child or teen, you are not alone. 1 in 8 kids and teens have an anxiety disorder. That's a lot. Look around your kid's class, right? I mean, I'm not very good at math, but if you have 25 kids in a class, I don't know, what is that? That's like 3 students at least. Yeah, kind of, that likely have an anxiety disorder, right? And more people like me are really working hard to destigmatize anxiety and to help get more of a positive word out there about how to manage it, so that it's not this heavy duty, doom and gloom situation, that it's actually something that most of us inherit in our gene pool, just like, I inherited astigmatism in my eye that makes my eyes football shaped instead of golf ball shaped. And that has caused me to need to wear glasses all my life. And I've had to learn how to manage wearing these glasses so that it doesn't disrupt my life, so that my vision issues that I had inherited doesn't disrupt my life, doesn't disrupt my ability to learn and things like that. So we're trying to destigmatize anxiety so that people can get some empowerment around it and actually be more in control of anxiety instead of anxiety being overly controlling of them, particularly problematic disruptive anxiety, right? So 1 in 8 people have the disorder level of anxiety, and it takes people like me or people like Lynn Dutrow, who's anti-anxiety, right? So if you put on Facebook anti-anxiety, she's an amazing anxiety expert with adults, right? There are a number of others of us that specialize in this and that are trying to get the word out. Okay, so you are not alone. And then the third is, and this is a tip that hopefully you can actually implement right away, is what's called externalize the behavior. Okay, it's a totally shrinky term, but stick with me here, okay? Externalizing anxiety is really, really important, particularly with children and teens, because when you probably can relate to this if you've ever had a level of disruptive anxiety, right? Maybe it's before a big talk, or maybe it's before like a first date where you're suddenly like, your chest is tight and you're suddenly like, I don't know if I should go. I don't know if I should do this. Maybe it's getting on a plane. Maybe it's, thinking about Hurricane Harvey, which is something that we've all been keeping our hearts and minds really oriented toward with, the folks in the Gulf of Mexico and the Texas region, right? So when we see that news and our compassion gets ignited around the folks that are really, really having a lot of pain related to Hurricane Harvey, maybe we get anxious. Maybe we get anxious about what if that happened to me or something, so certain people can get so tight and so tightened up around that. Well, what happens is that fear circuitry and those anxiety mechanisms really are designed to make it feel so real and so compelling that it feels like something that needs to be acted on immediately. And what externalizing the anxiety does, particularly with kids and teens, is it helps them begin to learn that anxiety, it's an emotion. It's a set of circuitry in our brain, okay? And that anxiety is a set of sensations, and particularly problematic anxiety tends to come with a set of anxiety thoughts, and that those are all separate things from who we are, like the core of who we are, right? So particularly like if we picture a 6-year-old who's getting tummy aches and headaches and is really afraid to go to school, right? So one of the first things that you can begin to do is externalize that anxiety by saying things like, whoopsie brain, whoopsie, you're accidentally forgetting that you're actually good at a lot of things. And you're actually forgetting that you had a fun day at recess yesterday with your friend when you guys played ball. Whoopsie brain, you're accidentally forgetting that, right? So by kind of calling out the brain, and I like to say whoopsie brain, you can say, brain, you're making a mistake filling up my daughter's tummy with all kinds of ouchy feelings, because her tummy needs to be able to feel good about school. Brain, you are making a mistake. Just like the other day, my brain made a mistake when I forgot to pick up the dry cleaning for daddy. You know, brains make all kinds of mistakes and whoopsies, but we love brains because our brain helps take care of us. It helps you remember to grab your backpack on the way to school. You know, brains help you learn how to ride the bike, right? So the idea is you start talking about the brain as this separate thing than the child, so that you can begin to teach the child, and the child or the teen can begin to learn that they have some choice in how they respond to their brain, right? So if the brain makes a mistake and makes me, let's imagine I'm a teenager, right? And so with the teen who is getting really overwhelmed and stressed about a test and incredibly anxious, and the teen is feeling like they can't go to sleep at a regular bedtime because their brain is telling them that they have to study, bad. What if I don't get into a good college? What if I, homeless people probably were failures on their test, and, really significant kind of thoughts and sensations of anxiety. So one of the things that you can teach the teen and they can begin to learn is all of that hubbub, all of that hoopla, all of that bigness and that level of intensity, okay, is as a whoopsie, is the brain accidentally making a mistake. And part of the externalizing is, depending on the situation, and if you're interested, leave in the comments some questions about this, and I'll do another tutorial on it, okay? But for some kids and teens, this externalizing of the anxiety tends to work well when we start orienting those mistakes kind of in packaging that's kind of resembles a bully, right? So it's like, whoa, your brain is whoopsie. It's the kind of mistakes it's making is actually kind of bullying you into, making you forget that you actually are a good student, and that you actually have learned a lot in this class. And that, if you, maybe forget a couple of questions or you freeze in the middle of the test, your brain's bullying you into kind of making you, falsely believe that you don't have supports. And that you can't, go talk to your teacher, go talk to the school counselor about that, and maybe do some extra credit, or maybe make it up, or so you didn't do as well on the test, and learning some strategies from your teacher or from a school counselor or from a tutor or something for how to prepare differently next time. Okay, so but then on the other hand, some kids and teens, that's too negative, and so it's actually, we kind of package it in. Your brain is trying to overhelp you. Your brain is trying to be too helpful. It's like, oh, I know how I'm going to help you. I'm going to do such a good job helping you that I'm going to keep you up tonight so that you actually don't even need to sleep. I'm going to fill you up with so much adrenaline and so much adrenaline caffeination that you're not going to be able to sleep, so you can spend all of your night studying for that test. Oh, I'm going to do so right by you. You know, so like you help externalize the anxiety by kind of packaging these sensations and these thoughts and this anxiety and this sort of fear circuitry as something separate that they can then learn strategies and skills around managing and responding to in a more effective and empowered way. Okay, so I super appreciate you learning this. So important. As I mentioned before, if you suspect this in your child or teen, you're not alone. As I've mentioned before, it's super important to take it seriously. So if you've made it to this point in this tutorial, again, I have such gratitude for you and actually so much excitement because it's folks like you that take it seriously and want to learn more and more and more about it, in order to help protect kids and teens from too much extra suffering from this really unique emotion that is anxiety. I just am so grateful because it's people like us and caregivers and educators and babysitters and therapists like us that have to be conscious allies with these kids and teens so that they can learn the skills and strategies for managing this on their own and feeling confident and courageous despite having, you know, anxiety that can activate fear circuitry that can complicate things for them. Okay, so if you are interested in learning more about this topic, and I sure hope you are, please consider asking me questions down in the comments so that I could provide more tutorials like this to answer for you. I also am just putting the finishing touches on a free 5-day e-course that is empowering the anxiety-prone child and teen. It's a parent's guide, but naturally any caregivers in a child's life can use this guide, and it's free. It's delivered to your inbox across 5 days. You can cut and paste sections of it and put it as reminders for you to, you know, revisit. You can save it in whatever, a PDF form, and revisit it time and time and time again so that you can become a conscious ally to the child and teen in your life to help them learn the tools and strategies for managing this really special emotion that is anxiety. And if you are local to Marin County, we are just north of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Beautiful, beautiful area with redwoods. We're super close to the ocean. Just lovely people here in Northern California. If you're local, come visit us at the Mindful Resource Center. You can go to our website at mindfulresourcecenter.com and check out our services there. Head over to the contact page and email us, and we can hop on the phone, and I'm happy to tell you more strategies and more ways to get support for helping your anxiety-prone child and teen. Okay, and then meanwhile, if you want to be notified about these kind of free offerings, be sure to put a yes please, or I want to stay in touch. What's the link to the newsletter so that you can get tips and tutorials and things like that and be some of the first to know about when the 5-day free e-course is going to be released. All right, I'm going to head off. I've got a couple more clients today. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and evening, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Take good care.